Many Magic the Gathering players ask the question, is it worth it to buy a Brawl deck? Designed to give a jump start to the floundering format, Brawl decks bring with them a rucksack full of issues, from supply and demand to chase commander cards, and highly dubious markups with no official MSRP, all of which has many Magic the Gathering players asking many more questions than usual, with sadly least of all of them being, are these a quality product for the actual format for which they were designed to support? But this video will attempt to answer those questions, looking at these decks objectively as a product for the Brawl format, while also examining overall financial worth, relevance for Commander and Standard players, a ranking of the decks by gameplay power, and just what you should and should not be paying for these, and why. Let's take a look. Each Brawl pre-constructed deck contains the following. One ready-to-play out-of-the-box 60-card Brawl deck, complete with a foil, semi-exclusive new legendary creature. You also get a cardboard spin-down life counter. I don't think this is very impressive, and I'm puzzled by why it starts at 40 life, which is not your starting life total in Brawl, but rather your starting life total in Commander. And after you go down 20 life total points, you need to flip it over. Very meh. Brawl decks do not come with a redemption code for the digital deck on Magic Arena, a major omission. So if you buy this in paper, you do not automatically get a copy of it online. The total MSRP is, well, Wizards of the Coast no longer provides an MSRP. However, since these are for sale at big box stores, such as Target and Walmart, and those stores do have an MSRP, this video will use those numbers to work with a sticker price of $20.99 US. The only problem is you might not be able to find it for that amount. And in fact, as of the filming of this video, you may have extreme difficulty finding this product on shelves at all. And if you do find it, it may have anywhere from a modest to extreme markup. In fact, if we glance at the contents of this $20 pre-con product, it's really shocking, literally. Each and every Brawl deck comes with its own Shockland, a standard staple that's also part of mana bases for Commander and Modern. This is sweetened by each Brawl deck having a Scryland in it. Again, a card that Standard, Modern, and Commander all makes heavy use of. When you compare this to the $45 Commander pre-cons, which have never once in their entire history had so much as one Shockland reprint, and whose mana bases are usually stuffed full of guild gates and lifelands, and then recognize that these Brawl precons are then pushed even further by each deck coming with a command tower featuring new and unique artwork, high value standard singles, bunch of Commander staples, not to mention unique legendaries that actually make for pretty impressive commanders, and you can see where some of the demand for this is coming from. In other words, this product isn't just some fun Brawl precon decks, but rather it was engineered to appeal to non-broad players in a massive way. I mean, it's got modern mana-based cards, standard staples, and new commander goodies like these new legendary creatures, or some cool collector commander cards like alternate artwork command towers, and also, just to ensure most commander players would want to pick up a copy regardless of whether they play Brawl or not, a strictly better mana rock with near universal commander usefulness, and exclusively found in these decks. I'm talking, of course, of Arcane Signet. More so than the value of the other individual cards in the decks, Arcane Signet is likely what put this product over the top in terms of demand. While it may not seem like much, it is one of the best mana rocks for multicolor commander decks, and as an artifact making any color of mana your deck might produce, it slots into literally any deck. While by no means a must-have, it is exactly the type of card that commander players want. I urge you to recognize that this is a temporary and artificial scarcity, very likely created by the company just to push the agenda of the Brawl format. But either way, spending $45 and up on a Brawl deck, if all you want to do is just get that Arcane Signet, well, that, in my evaluation, is a terrible use of your money, as I firmly believe the card's price will continue to plummet, as it already has plummeted, and the availability of the Brawl decks is said to soon be quite plentiful. All of that aside, there's certainly a lot of value in these besides Arcane Signet, so let's take a look at overall financial value. If you were to buy all the individual cards for the Knight's Charge deck, you would have to spend approximately $72.47. Now, in all of these decks, the main bulk of cards is just that, standard bulk. After all, Brawl is only using the standard card pool. But if we were to examine all the contents of these decks that's worth over $1 in value, and thus eliminate all the bulk, we would see that Knight's Charge has cards like Arcane Signet at $11.75, Godless Shrine at $10.50, Knight of the Ebon Legion at $8.50, Sir Gwen, Hero of Ashvale at $7 each, Knight's Charge at $5.50, Command Tower at $2.50, Temple of Triumph also at $2.50, Midnight Reaper at $2, Silverwing Squadron at $2, Mace of the Valiant at $1.75, and Icon of Ancestry at $1.50, which means that even if you cut all the bulk from this deck, there's 11 cards out of 60 with value at $1 or more, equaling a total value of $55.50, well in excess of $20. All of these prices I'm using come from after release, so the initial weekend has passed, prices have plummeted, and there's still this much value here. Wild Bounty would cost you $66.20 to assemble, and above that $1 value, it has Arcane Signet, Chulane, Teller of Tales at $10, Hollowed Fountain at $8.75, Steelbane Hydra at $5 each, Tome of Legends at $2.75, Incubation Druid at $2.50, Command Tower, of course, at $2.50, as is Fairy Formation, Temple of Mystery at $2, and Circuitous Route at $1, a total value of $48.75 for the non-bulk cards. Savage Hunter would cost $63.25, where in addition to the Arcane Signet, Corvold, Fey-Cursed King is $9.99, Stomping Ground $9.90, Command Tower $2.50, Chittering Witch $2.50, Priest of Forgotten Gods $2.25, Temple of Malady $2, Dreadhorde Invasion $1.25, which is the same as Rhythm of the Wild and Krenko Tin Street Kingpin, and finally Judith the Scourge Diva is $1, and a total value of $45.64. Finally, buying the individual pieces of Fairy Schemes would cost $60.17, and this too has 10 cards above the $1 value. Amazing how all four had 10 or 11 cards above $1 value. Where in addition to the Arcane Signet, there's Watery Grave at $11, Alila, Artful Provocateur at $9.75, the ever-amazing Smothering Tithe at $8.25, Shimmer Dragon at $3.80, the Command Tower at $2.50, Temple of Silence at $2, Kaya's Wrath at $1.75, Mace of the Valiant also there, and Saphara Sky's Blade at $1.50, bringing us to $54.05. And thus, financially speaking, there's a rich collection of cards for Standard, Modern, and Commander, and more to these decks than just Arcane Signet and the unique Commander, although those do make up a healthy amount of the value. It is amazing to me to see such a fine selection of cards of value here, from higher-end reprints like the Shocklands to a nice collection of cards in the $2 to $3 range. Considering the sticker price here was only meant to be $20, it's a wonder this sort of selection can't be curated into other pre-constructed products, but hey, other pre-constructed products aren't Brawl. But speaking of Brawl, let's just look at these decks as power pieces for the format itself, stripping away financial value entirely, stripping away Commander cards, reprint equity, the bizarre machinations of a multi-million-dollar corporation and their pro-Brawl agenda. Let's just look at whether or not these decks are fun to play with, how well do they play against each other, and which are the best of the four, strictly from a gameplay standpoint. The deck design process for these Brawl decks and their commanders was somewhat different than usual, with Melissa DeTora of Play Design leading a team of 4 Magic players external to Wizards of the Coast, each with different play styles and drives, and each being given their own deck to spearhead, essentially. And thus, we had people like Emma Handy, who was essentially the lead external designer on the Chulane deck, Henry Davis, the Corvold deck, Jeremy Geist, the Alila deck, and Stephanie Shelby of the Sir Gwen deck. deck. I feel this led to really unique design and direction for each deck, and I actually am a big fan of the results, although it did lead to a more dramatic variety of power levels than is usually desired. But hey, pre-constructed decks seldom are very balanced for play against one another anyway, so I'll endorse this development method, which led to a really powerful and well put together deck selection, especially in the case of Tulane and Alila. In my evaluation, the Tulane deck is the best of the four in terms of gameplay. Its powerful draw engine is easy to get started and hard to stop, and it has a tendency to steamroll games not only against the other three decks, but also unique Brawl builds. Tulane is such a well-designed and awesome card by itself that not only is he considered one of the best new commanders for the actual commander format, but there's even some standard decks making use of his powerful abilities. Speaking strictly in terms of gameplay, this is the top deck to pick up. Leela and Korvold are tied for second. In fact, I feel these two are the most balanced of the four decks, hitting the precon target that I think Wizards of the Coast really seems to like, with just a bit more oomph and function. If I were picking up two decks to play against each other in a 1v1 setting with a friend, I might skip Tulane and grab these two instead, though that is not to imply these can't hold their own against Wild Bounty. I do feel out of the four decks that Knight's Charge is the overall weakest, significantly so, and its Tribal Knight theme never really managed to tap into any significant synergy, as most games left me with a lot of dinky low-end creatures and not much in the way of options against my opponents. Final conclusion, Brawl pre-constructed decks have cards that appeal to a wide swath of players, from Commander to Modern. While cards like Arcane Signet may continue to drop significantly in value, there's a lot more to these decks than just a low-cost mana rock. As decks for the Brawl format itself, the new design process has led to a diversity of options, with at least 3 of the 4 decks being fun, powerful, and all-around well-constructed for gameplay. The lack of an online redemption code for Arena is the only design blemish I see on this otherwise outstanding new product. Whether you love Brawl or just plan to pick one of these decks up for spare parts, this is everything a Magic the Gathering pre-constructed product should be. Or rather, this would be everything a Magic the Gathering product should be, except that an extremely small print run, with even smaller allocations for local game stores, has led to a kind of artificial scarcity. And while more decks are apparently coming, this lack of availability has led to predictable supply issues that include what is oftentimes an outrageous markup of price. Grade, if you can pick up these decks at $20.99, then this is an A-. In the $21 to $30 range, we drop an entire letter grade to a B-. But I would also add a reluctance on my part to be an early adopter, as again, another printing of these is coming. In my evaluation, despite the financial value contained within, I would urge you not to pay $30 or more for any of these decks, as cards like Arcane Signet and some of the more chase standard rares are going to continue to plummet. And at that price, this does become a product that is simply not worth it. And I would say the grade would then be a solid D for do not buy. In closing, I would like to take a moment to talk about the intense anger and frustration being felt over the lack of availability of this product and the incredible price markups being seen. I absolutely understand and even share that frustration and anger, but in my evaluation, our ire should not be directed so much at local game stores, but instead it should be directed at Wizards of the Coast, who is responsible for creating these conditions. Most likely, your local game store is not trying to cheat you. Most likely, your local game store is trying, and desperately, to just stay in business, often dangling by a thread. And while I do not support paying grossly inflated prices, I repeat, I do not support paying grossly inflated prices. I do understand the cause is not simply callous greed on the part of your local game store. Rather, The cause is that an environment has been created where this outcome that we are currently experiencing not only could have been predicted, but possibly was even desired by Wizards of the Coast to further drive sales to big box stores and Amazon, all while creating hype and word of mouth around a product designed for a format that they desperately want to succeed. This is why so much value and wide player appeal was packed into a product which they then chose to underprint and then further chose to send tiny allocations to game stores at next to no possible profit lest they raise prices. Well, then what did they expect would happen? So I reserve my anger and frustration over this situation for Wizards of the Coast, who, during this time of record profits, has so dramatically shifted focus and support away from local game stores and overall created all the conditions necessary for exactly this to happen. Finally, if your local game store was one of the many Magic the Gathering stores that, despite the next to no profit possible on this product, sold it for or very near the same price as the mega big box stores, then even if you didn't manage to snag a copy, treasure them and support them when you can and when it is reasonable to do so, because that's all that's going to keep them alive in this new Magic era that is shifting from paper to digital and from the local game store to Amazon and direct sales. And this program was made possible thanks to a sponsorship from Card Kingdom, as well as the Patreon support of viewers such as you. So thank you.